So I've been messing around with Android Studio user interface and following a couple of tutorials on it, and I think I have a pretty good grasp of what it does. So in this video, let's go over a couple of things. So mainly how to start new Android projects. So here we're going to click on Start New Android Studio Project after you download the SDK from the website. And you're presented with a screen where you can pick a couple of basic templates for different Android devices. So you can actually make Android TV or their watch devices. So it's pretty cool. But for our lesson, we're going to play with the phone and tablet templates. So I'm just going to pick a empty activity as the starting templates. Click next. And then here we're just going to do demo app as the name of the application. And it will automatically put your application in the correct namespace and the location that you specify where you can store your app. The language I'm going to pick, it's called Kotlin, which is a version of JVM language. Kotlin, like in the last video I mentioned, is going to be the language I go with because it seems to be having the first-class support for Google, and a lot of tutorials on the web are based around Kotlin nowadays. Now the minimum API level, this is where you pick at the minimum. So KitKat, I found, is a pretty good version to pick for minimum support because it will support a majority, 95% of all devices on the market today. So you'll make sure that when you pick that, your app can be supported by a lot of devices. So we're just going to click Finish to let the studio generate its own files for you, and it will load the build, and it will take a couple of seconds. So once everything is done, you are now ready to write Android apps. So instead of going over like what everything does, I'm just going to try to build some demo app for you, and so you can see like what things do on the user interface. So main activity is going to be open by default. This is main activity is where you write the code for your application. Like when you click on the button, what happens? When the app loads, what happens? Don't worry about what's here now, but we'll go over it. But you'll have some boilerplate code written by Android. So we'll worry about that later. Now the next thing you want to really look at is something under the rest folder, and then you go to layout and then activity main. This is the user interface where you actually design your applications. So if I zoom in a bit, you can see this says hello world there. So while we do this, let's open up so I actually already have a emulator set up here. If you don't have this, you can click on Open AVD Manager, and you can pick an Android device to run your app in. For me, I'm going to run it on Nexus 5 building, and then it will start running the emulator in the background. So while this stuff is running in the background, let me just go over the user interface. Here in the palette here, you can have a couple of things you can add to the app. So for example, you have like very common things like buttons, images, recycle views, and scroll views. I'll tell you what these are, but these are the pretty much common things you find in applications nowadays. A component tree gives you a hierarchical order of your components. So it's very handy when you have things like scroll view, which is a container view, and you can put stuff underneath it. So this will tell you like what's the relationship you have between each applications. Now, if you click on a component here, there's a text view here, right, called Hello World. If you click on it, you see that on the right here, there's a couple of attributes come up. Here, if you're familiar with the web development world, you could see that a couple of pretty familiar attributes like padding, margin, or text size. So most of the time, all I do is I go to the search and then try to find the property that I want to modify. So on top of having a text specific attribute, you also have layout specific attributes you can pick here to play around with. So which is pretty cool. Now I think I have my emulator. There it is. So now you have your emulator on the Android, and you can use this Android emulator to pretty much emulate everything an Android can do, Android device can do. So as you can see, with just the boilerplate, I was able to create this app here, which is pretty much a dummy app with the word hello world in there. So if you get that far, you're on your way. So a good thing about this emulator is that if you ever change the text, let's say I want to change the text, right? So text. So instead of saying hello world, I want to say hello Pentaco. So when you make a change, you don't need to rerun the whole emulator process again. You can just click on this button here, which is apply changes and restart activity. When you do this, the emulator will automatically update with the changes that you made. So after the Gradle build is done, this should refresh with your new text without having to restart this whole emulator system. The only time you have to restart the whole emulator system is when you're adding, so you have to keep that in mind. Now the design view is useful when you want to see visually how things look and you want to drag things around to place things. But sometimes, if you want to go faster, you can go to the text view. Text view is the XML representation of your user interface. So you can actually set a lot of properties there without using the design view. So let's say if I want to change the text here, I can just say, change it back to hello world. So I can just update it here, and then you see the design has already changed. This is useful if you already know about what you want to do. So you can, let's say, here's another example, right? Let's say I want to change the text size. Now, I can go to the attribute panel and change the text size, or I can just go directly here and just type in text size. And you see Android autocomplete has a ability to find what you're looking for. Most of the time, it's extremely accurate. So if you click on text size, and now you just have to enter. So for text size, you always use the SP dimension. So let's say I want to make it 50. So now you see the text changed. So this is very useful if you know the property name that you're going to play with, and if you want to do it quickly. Sometimes this is a lot quicker than the design view. So I guess that's it. This is a very quick video, the introduction to the user interface. I think the next video we're going to build a really simple, quick app that's more than just a hello world. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel.